Hello, I'm Dr. Pierresamaan, and it's wonderful being back with you as we continue our discussion on unmasking addiction. We're in the recovery and relapse phase of our talk about how to get through the addictive process into treatment, through treatment, into sobriety, and in the future, stay out of relapsing, stay in health and wellness. And so we'll be getting into that part in the next, or the session after the next. Unmasking recovery and relapse prevention it's a big subject, and we're putting it into this small space of time as best we can. So if you want to learn more about it, do your searches on the computer, read your books, your self-help books on it. I don't care how many years I've been studying, I've been learning. Every time I open up a book and I think I'm going to already know what's in the book, there's always something in there that you either have forgotten or something new that's recently been discovered, or something that just no one's thought of before, and here it just pops up. So keep learning. Don't stop learning, because if you keep learning, your brain keeps thriving. And that's what we want, a healthy brain. And when you get involved in addiction, you're tearing down that healthy brain. It's no longer healthy in the midst of addiction. After an agonizing detoxification period, initial abstinence, prolonged abstinence, or sobriety, as many will call it, and continued recovery is going to follow. Some say sobriety is just not using anymore, not behaving in an addictive way anymore. Others might say sobriety is having no remaining measurable effects. Well, you could take either one of those and run with it. We can define abstinence as refraining from something, or not doing or having something that's wanted or enjoyable. After physical and mental detoxification, the early stages of substance use disorder is basically mindlessness. I mean, it's, whoa, what's going on there? That's what they tell me. An incomplete detox, and when I say incomplete detox, keep in mind, if somebody's been a chronic addict, or let's say they've been addicted for a substantial length of time, 10 days, 3 weeks, it's not going to really fully detox their system, their body. So it's not quite fully cleaned up yet when they start the early recovery program. So an incomplete detox increases the fear of vulnerability that arises from memories and trauma, leading to emotional flooding. According to the Gottman Institute, flooding is a sensation of feeling psychologically and physically overwhelmed during a conflict, a struggle, making it virtually difficult or impossible to have a productive discussion, a productive moment with someone, or retaining information that's coming from a class that you're being taught something in, and even problem solving. It just is so difficult when there's emotional flooding occurring. And in the early stages of recovery, just about everyone they're experiencing that emotional flooding that's occurring. And so in early stages of recovery, it can be overwhelming to not only the thinking part of the person, but their entire senses, their body, their emotions, just everything is just kind of out of whack. For many, just a difficult conversation, harsh feedback, or straightforward discussion strains the bodies, making it easy to feel overwhelmed, attacked, or confused. During emotional flooding, powerful thoughts and emotions trigger an influx of physiological sensations, and that's entire body sensations, and a surge in the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. So in other words, a defensive mode kicks in, and that fear system in the brain, the basement of the brain that we have spoken of in the past, gets activated even where there is no threat, but there's the potential of a threat, because that part of the mind in the hippocampus is holding some of those memories, and the amygdala is holding those threat memories as well. And the potential of a discussion, you ever remember when you were a kid sitting at the dinner table and there's an argument? When I used to, years ago, we would go to the state prison to do emotional support and help, and they would allow us into the cafeteria, into the fields to talk with the inmates and give encouragement and so on. But at lunches, at the meals, they were eating really quick. It was very quiet, and off they would go. And I asked, well, why is everyone so quiet? Are you not allowed to talk? No, you can talk. And why are they eating so quick, and why are they getting out? I said, because this is a bad place to be. This brings back all those memories of our childhoods when we were at the dinner table and Dad blew up or Mom blew up or somebody got angry and they it was just so unsafe, and that brings back those memories, they would say. Thank God I didn't have to go through that, but perhaps you did, or perhaps you know someone that did. Just those simple memories, they're stored in there. They're never going to leave. They're always going to be lurking in the dark shadow of the basement of the brain to be a reminder. If there's something that's similar, it's letting you know, watch out, be careful. And so unless that gets healed in some way, and we call it tearing down a stronghold in Christian counseling, unless that stronghold is torn down, it lurks in the darkness, and it's there. You might not even remember it, but it remembers you, and it starts to activate the physiological responses, and you're wondering, why are you in the defense mode when your kid asks you a question at the dinner table, or your wife or husband makes a statement about something at the dinner table, and immediately you're criticizing, you're defending yourself, you're feeling as though you've got to shut it down as quickly as possible. And that just creates an argument or creates dissatisfaction among everyone, and whatever else may come of that. So that influx of physiological sensation comes over you. It's a surge, and the stress hormones kick in, and you're in that defense mode. Threatening perceptions leading to self-protection can make it challenging to access self-restraint, self-control. Oh, well, I'm feeling this way, but you know what? She didn't say anything bad, or he didn't say anything bad. They just asked a question. Well, let me just answer the question, or perhaps I could just say, sure, let's talk about it after dinner, and then it's over. But when that's lurking in the shadows of the basement, the defense mode kicks in, the adrenaline kicks in, those stress hormones, right away, out it comes. Early abstinence may vary in severity due to incomplete detoxification, as I mentioned earlier. It takes time for your body chemistry to balance. Continued sobriety during the initial abstinence or early sobriety, early phase of treatment program is best encouraged by addressing the addict's constant cravings and aspects of the addict's life that may pose a risk of relapse. And that would be an example of what I just said, dinner. I've had some clients that it was just horrible at dinner time, and they were so scared to come to the dinner table when they were children. There's every meal there was an incident, and some just unbelievable. So if there's a history of that, well, you want to know about it when someone is in treatment so that you can address it ahead of time, work on it, perhaps ease the person into meals with others, not just throwing them in there with the group all at once, because what's that going to do? It's just going to boom, out it comes, and there's going to be issues. So sometimes you don't know until out it comes and there's an issue. Oh, okay, well, let's not put them in jail for that, but let's have a meal in your room by yourself this first few times, and we'll ease you back into the group again. You know, it's a slow process. So some recovery takes longer. You can't just say, all right, in 30 days, in 90 days, in 180 days, or whatever, that's it. For some, it's going to take much longer. And you need to allow for that. We need to allow them to take longer if it's needed. Some it's going to be faster. Some it'll be longer. So you just can't say, here's the dollar amount. Okay, you've reached that dollar amount. It's all spent. You got to go. It's not going to work. They're going to relapse. It's just not going to get around that. There's got to be programs to help when it needs to be extended in some way. Medical approaches used during a detox may need to continue. Last time we spoke about those medical approaches. So sometimes, somebody may need that medical help, that medication to continue for a number of weeks afterwards because of issues, whatever those issues might be, to reverse the pleasurable effects of the drugs, to reduce drug cravings, to encourage addicts to stay clean. But it's not for everybody. You can't say, okay, everybody's going to get this medication to take away the cravings and help you to feel more comfortable, and while you're in the entirety of recovery. That's not going to work. Certain few, they'll need that little extra help at first, but you got to wean them off, and they've got to do it on their own. Then you have a few that have a chronic medical condition, undiagnosed or diagnosed, where they're going to need that help, perhaps not only through the recovery, the treatment program, but maybe for the rest of their life. There's always that few because of whatever issues that there may be, but it's not everybody. And in this society, we tend to, well, he's doing it, so why can't I? Or they're doing it, so I should do it also. No, you can't look at it that way. It doesn't work that way. Anti-craving medications, such as those used during the detox phase, can also be continued during the more traditional approach, the early abstinence phase, as I was mentioning. Voluntary isolation from environmental triggers and cues, such as driving by the local bar, somebody else is using and you're talking to them and you can recognize it, or drug paraphernalia, counseling, 12-step meetings. They can work, but they can be ineffective for someone who is having episodic issues. The cravings continue, in other words. Okay, that's not going to work. Voluntary separation from their drugs of choice or behavior of choice. It's not working for them. They can try it 2 or 3 times. It's not working for them. They're going to need a treatment program. They're going to need to be in a place of order and structure. A persistent change in brain chemistry and circuitry brought about by drug and behavioral addiction creates a vulnerability to relapse long after the drug or behavior has ceased. In other words, it's going to persist. For some, it'll persist a lifetime. For others, it'll persist a few months. For others, who knows, because we're different, we're unique. And the damage that has been done in the brain because of whatever the addiction was, because it's changed the brain chemistry, it's changed the organism of the brain, for some, it's going to take a while. The less you do, the least amount of time you've done it in, well, the healthier your brain's going to be, and the quicker it's going to restore back to health. In other words, the brain's reward system has morphed into an anti-reward system when it's been damaged. In response to the overuse of brain's reward system, the addict's brain's anti-reward system becomes overactive, causing a severe dysphoric phase. Dysphoric means moodiness, irritability, dissatisfaction. I don't know, oh, I'm just down, here's normal. Here's the line of what most people hear in this line of normal. Dysphoric is going to be just down here, below normal. And that's also called dysthymic. So dysthymic mood, dysthymic disorder, that's a low-grade depression, is down here, where some people are just that way for perhaps a lifetime, and they need medication or additional help. They need to perhaps spend more time exercising, more time paying attention to their nutrition and so on to kind of help them get up here. But a dysphoric mood, that's about where it's at. And when drugs are being used, as soon as that anti-reward system kicks in, they drop, they become dysphoric, especially in between use. And the next thing you know, I need more, to feel better. So as a result, persistent changes in motivation bring an associated tendency of relapse into addiction. So, I don't feel so good. I was up here, now I'm down here, or I was up here, now I'm down here. I need to use again, or I need whatever has worked in the past. So we tend to follow our habits. And if the habit can turn into a compulsion, it turns into a forceful urge to do it. And if it can turn into an addiction, it turns into an addiction. So our mind just automatically says, hey, do this and you'll feel better. Okay, especially when you're tired and you're not thinking straight. Okay, and you do it again, and all right, I feel better. I need to feel good because I'm feeling moody, unmotivated, don't want to do anything, don't want to go anywhere, don't want to talk to anybody. I need help. There's nobody to talk to. I don't like to talk to anybody. I don't like anybody. I'll take my drug. And okay, now I'm feeling better, but immediately they drop back down again. Substance use and abuse or addictive behavior changing the brain chemistry create persistent cravings resulting from the breakdown of neurotransmitters in the brain. The breakdown is known as endogenous craving. Endogenous craving activates the brain's hippocampus. Again, back in the basement again, the hippocampus part of the brain, which is essential for memory. So the hippocampus kind of takes memory, stores some memory, but it also acts as a screening device, screening some memories and sending the memories back up to the rest of the brain in places where they need to be. But it's also sending, it's a loop down there, looping, sending the memory that needs to go back to the amygdala, the fight or flight organ, where the amygdala holds the fearful, threatening memories, and it sends those bits of fearful, threatening memories back to the amygdala that gets activated, sends the adrenaline message to the thalamus and hypothalamus to send those corticoids, those stress hormones, the adrenaline through the body to get ready for a fight. When that happens over and over again, those areas get, a hair trigger forms. They're very sensitive, and it loops. It keeps happening. It doesn't turn off like it's supposed to turn off. 3 minutes, the amygdala gets activated, it should turn off in about 3 minutes and then cycle off and okay, now back to normal again. It just kind of sometimes keeps pumping that misinformation, causing that defense mode to remain until you can get away from whatever and have time to relax. But you know what? It's never enough time. If there's a problem there, it's never enough time if there's a history of addiction, because the minute you come back into that environment again, the hippocampus, the thalamus, the amygdala is saying, hey, we're in the threat mode again. Be careful, watch out, pay attention. They're after you. They're wanting to get something from you. They're wanting to take advantage. You're vulnerable. Okay, you better be ready for anything. And then the slightest thing happens and the defense mode kicks in again and and all that. And I got to get away. And in the getting away, the escaping, well, sometimes they turn to their drugs of choice, their behaviors of choice, but eventually, all right, back. Oh, it just seems to cycle to not a good thing, is it? And sometimes you need to be in an orderly, structured environment where it's safe for a period of time to allow that whole system to relax. So that endogenous craving is an internal craving. It's not coming so much from the outside as it's happening on the inside. The endogenous craving activates the brain's hippocampus, which is essential for memory and helps reinforce reward-seeking behaviors that give us a powerful desire. That's craving. Pre-existing opioid receptors in the brain turn on and create an inner craving from the memories. That endogenous craving is that inner craving from the memories. Frequent and intense addictive experiences produce stronger cravings. So the more you do it, the stronger the cravings are going to be. The absence, if we use alcohol as an example, it could be any number of things, but let's use alcohol as an example. The absence of alcohol alters the activity of brain cells, leading to unbalanced brain activity and powerful desires. In addition, adaptive changes create memories of the soothing effects of alcohol. The desire or craving can be activated by alcohol-related environmental stimuli, such as driving by the bar that you often used to go into, or watching TV, seeing somebody drinking on TV or drugging on TV. Even after a prolonged abstinence period, that can lead to relapse, which is why it can take time. It can take months, years of staying strong, continued working, and for some, a lifetime of continued work. Similarly, stressful situations can trigger memories of being free from alcohol, leading to relapses. Detoxification is hard enough, and I keep coming back to that detox period because I hear from addicts in recovery, they're constantly referring back to their detox and how they're afraid to have to go back into it again. And sometimes that keeps them using because they have built up the fear of that detox. Detoxification's hard enough, but with initial abstinence, many issues make it challenging to focus. Learn how to live a sober life. It makes it difficult to learn just about anything, and struggle to stay clean and sober. When an addict stops addictive substances or behaviors, there's a gap, a void, there's an emptiness there, a void in their daily life, a sense of loss. Well, that kind of comes down to grief, doesn't it? I'm still grieving the loss of my wife. She's in heaven. She's with the Lord. I think about it, I'll tear up. it's been a couple of years now, almost 2 years, that grief will stay with you for a lifetime. Gets a little better, but still, it's a reminder. Think of an addict now. They're dealing with the grief of the loss of their loved one. Their loved one is the drug or the behavior because it's made them feel so good. It's given them what they needed at the time or what they thought they needed at the time, and it got reinforced and reinforced. They fell in love with their drug or their addictive behavior. And now it's not there. What's going to happen? They're going to grieve. And in the grieving, there's denial. There's anger, bargaining, depression. And eventually, as they are in sobriety long enough, suddenly there's a point of recognition of acceptance. Sometimes that acceptance, very often, I don't know, I never really hear of it happening early. Even in a 6-month period, there tends to be a relapse of grief at that 6-month point. And I'm often told by those in recovery that when they've been in treatment and they come out, that 6-month point seems to be something goes on, a reset occurs, something's happening in the brain, and they suddenly, it's a recognition of all that's happened, hits them at that 6-month, and they go into a grieving period, is a deeper grieving than they've had before. Most of them will describe it that way. But that's a good thing, it's not bad, because it's in that deeper grieving that acceptance is going to emerge. So we want to go through those stages. We don't want to prevent them from happening. And, well-meaning people try to prevent them from happening by doing everything they can to please. But, sometimes we got to go through that struggle to get stronger, to be better, but to be able to get to that place of acceptance. In early stages of grief and emotional flood, past experiences and trauma are associated with it. People in abusive or violent relationships are more likely to be emotionally flooded. Physical trauma, such as a car accident, for example, where there was injury, can also lead to emotional flooding. A traumatic brain injury can alter moods and behaviors, leading to emotional floods. Addicts experience confusion and disorientation from engaging in overly stimulating activities before treatment. Because their routine ends, the feel-good ends at the start of treatment, well, now this doesn't feel good. This place isn't good for me. I don't belong here. This isn't right. So anxiety begins to well up. They feel in disarray. Mindlessness occurs. It's like being in the clouds, as some have said. Well, things kind of get chaotic at that point, and as abstinence continues, the mind clears. So stick with it. Don't give it up. Stand in there. Go through the struggle, because they're going to return to mindfulness or being fully aware with the direction, the support that they're receiving, the encouragement that they're getting. They need to reach that treatment goal, and that's what they'll reach if they stick with it. It's necessary to fill the gap as soon as possible to achieve a sustainable period of abstinence or sobriety. All high-impact inpatient programs have a busy schedule that helps build healthy people, healthy recovery. And that busy schedule is constructive. It's a structure that they put in play where every hour of the day something is going on. It's written down. The one who's in recovery knows what to expect, so the unknown isn't there, because that fear of the unknown triggers the fear response? What's going to happen? I don't know. But if I know, okay, I've got it planned, it's going to be okay. So the relapse, the structure replaces the chaotic drug-seeking activity. Order and structure help reduce the risk of relapse. Let me say that again. Order and structure are very important. They help reduce the risk of relapse. So do you get that at home if you're voluntarily stopping something? Well, you might be able to get that if there's a structure set up, if you have a helper to help you, mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, husband, wife. There needs to be somebody to help you with that structure, because you're not going to maintain it on your own. You're not going to stay in that structure on your own. So order and structure, whether you're doing it voluntarily or whether you go into a treatment program, seems to be very, very important for success in sobriety. Well, the biblical step 4 in Christian counseling, we choose to admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. In step 4, we must stop hiding from the truth about ourselves and our misdeeds. Only as we're truthful can we experience healing. And that's very biblical. It is truth. Truth is reality. We're in a society today where they're tearing that down purposely, and you can take that as a fact or not, but it's being done purposely for a reason. If you tear down reality, what are you left with? Well, you're left with nothing to count on, no structure, no order. Oh, wait a minute, doesn't that kind of resemble these things that we're talking about? There's a lot going on there. So we need to realize that truth is reality. Reality is truth. Scientific reality is truth. Biblical reality is truth. And you mix it together and suddenly you have even more reality and truth when one supports the other, and you realize there is evidence supporting both. What does the Bible say about what we've spoken of here today? Well, in the paraphrase Bible of the Remedy Bible, it says, "Our fathers worked with us and taught us for just a few years to the best of our ability," or their ability. "But God works to heal us for eternity, that we may partake of His perfect goodness and love. No discipline or therapy is enjoyable at the time. It's painful. But if intelligently cooperated with, it results in healing of the mind, development of Christ-like character, and peace of heart. Therefore, stiffen that upper lip and straighten your spine, and redouble your determination to stay the healing course. Remove the obstacles to your recovery, so that the infection of selfishness may not permanently deform your character, but rather that you may be healed." Hebrews 12, verses 10 to 13 in the Remedy Bible, if you want to find that and read it for yourself. Well, I hope this was helpful for you today. May your troubles be more minor, blessings more, and happiness come through your door. We'll see you again. God bless.